Welcome to the React Diagram tutorial. In this video, you will see the different actions that can be performed in the Syncfusion React Diagram component. I will show you node and connector interactions and how to restrict them. I will also show you how to perform zooming, panning, and undo and redo operations. First, I open my existing React application to which I have added a diagram component with nodes and connectors. To learn more about integrating the diagram component into a React application, please check the Getting Started video link to the card above and the description below. Let me run this application using the command npm start. The diagram canvas is rendered with the defined height and width. The nodes and the connectors are rendered with the defined annotations. Using the mouse pointer, I click on nodes and connectors to select them. I then click and move the pointer to select all the elements. I can also press Ctrl+A on my keyboard to select everything. Next, I will show you how to choose the elements programmatically with a button click. In the app.tsx file, add a division element above the diagram component. Within it, add a button element with the content select and set a class name button to align the element. Add the onClick event and assign a name for the event handler method. Then define the onSelect method. Within it, I need to access the diagram instance dynamically. So I add the ref attribute and assign the value diagram ref. Then define this diagram ref variable using the useRef hook and import it from the React package. To perform the select operation in the onSelect method, use the diagram instance, call the select method, and pass an array. You can pass one or more diagram elements to select them. Here, I pass two node and connector objects to select them. To style the elements, I navigate to the app.css file and add styles to the button class. In the diagram canvas, you will see the Select button. Click it. The nodes and connectors are selected. To select every item in the diagram canvas, the Select All function can be used. To unselect elements, click the diagram canvas. To achieve the same programmatically, add a new button component to the division tag and set the content to clear selection. Set the event handler name to onClear selection. I implement this method and invoke the clear selection function from the current diagram instance. I click the Select button first to select the diagram items. Next, if I click Clear Selection, the items will be unselected programmatically. To restrict selection, I need to use the constraints property. So I import the node constraints and connector constraints enums from the Syncfusion EJ2 React Diagrams package. In the first node object, define the constraints property with node constraints default value and use the bitwise not operator to exclude the select enum value. I am excluding this so that it will be removed from the default value and the node cannot be selected anymore. I do the same for the connector object using the connector constraints. In the diagram canvas, I cannot select node 1 and the connector due to the constraints set, but can select node 2. You can drag the node to change its position. To restrict dragging in the node 2 object, define the constraints property and exclude the drag operation. Now I can select node 2 but cannot drag it. I can resize the node. To prevent resizing, in the node 2 object's constraints property, exclude the resize value. To restrict the connector resizing, I need to disable the connector's drag points. Here, I will restrict the target end by excluding the value drag target end. I remove the select constraint for demonstration purposes. When I select the connector, you can see the target endpoint is disabled, but I can drag the source end. For the node, all the resize points are disabled to prevent the resize operation. You can rotate the node using the rotator icon. To prevent this in the Node 2 Objects Constraints property, exclude the rotate value. Now select the node and you can no longer see the rotator icon over the node. I can edit the node text by double-clicking on it. Similarly, edit the content in the connector. You can also use the F2 key on your keyboard to edit the content. Now I will show you how to restrict editing for both nodes and connectors. In the Node 2 Objects Constraints property, add the read-only constraint. This will allow default operations and restrict editing of the node content. Do the same for the connector too. Now the content of the nodes and connectors cannot be edited. I can select the connector or node and delete it. To prevent deleting the elements in the Node 2 Objects Constraints property, exclude the delete value. Do the same for connector constraints. Now I can select the node but cannot delete it. The same applies to the connector. I can zoom in and out using the mouse and pressing the Control key on the keyboard. By default, I cannot pan the diagram, so let's see how to enable panning. I comment out the existing nodes and connectors array and add a new set of nodes and connectors that render a flowchart. Then I import the diagram tools enum from the Syncfusion EJ2 React Diagrams package. Next, to change the diagram tool, I import the useEffect hook from the React package and define a useEffect block. Then, inside the useEffect block, I check the diagram's current instance for null using inif block and set the current diagram tool to the zoom pan from the diagram tools enum. This statement will enable zooming and panning options. Now you can see the flowchart and the hand mouse pointer, which indicates that panning is enabled. I can zoom and pan the diagram canvas now. Next, I'll show you how to perform zoom out programmatically. Inside the useEffect block, use the diagram's current instance and call the zoom2 function by passing an object. Inside the object, set the type property to zoom out and the zoom factor property to 0.4. As you can see, the diagram is zoomed out. Similarly, to zoom in programmatically in the zoom2 function, set the zoom in type. Now you can see the diagram is zoomed in, and I can pan it. I can interact in the diagram elements using shortcut keys. By default, some built-in commands are bound with a relevant set of key combinations. This table illustrates those commands with the associated key values. I can perform interactions like select all, cut, copy, paste, undo, redo, etc. Now to enable undo and redo, I import the undo redo module from the EJ2 React Diagrams package along with the inject module to inject these services. For better visibility, let me comment out the zooming and panning related codes. Then, inside the diagram component, I add the inject tag, and using the services attribute, inject the undo redo module. Now I can perform interactions like editing a node's content or deleting a node. When I press Ctrl and Z, the undo operation occurs. And when I press Ctrl and Y, the redo operation is performed. That's how easy it is to select, drag, resize, rotate, edit, delete, zoom, pan, and undo and redo in the Syncfusion React Diagram component. You can download the example in this video from the GitHub link in the description below. I have also included a link where you can check if you're eligible for our community license, which gives you a free license key for all our React components. If you found this video useful, consider liking and subscribing to our channel to stay updated on our new videos. Thanks for watching.